death. Give me an ordinary face. All I ask is to retreat from the world and live in seclusion. To live the life of an ordinary person.
Let me make it clear. Once you apply this medicinal ash, you will become a different person.
I don't want to see this woman's face ever again.
The woman in front of me actually wants to change her face to someone else's because her true identity is Yeoh, the most ruthless female assassin of the Blackstone organization. Only by doing this can she retire from the martial world and live out her life as an ordinary person. The reason for her retirement, however, starts with a story about a corpse from hundreds of years ago. 500 years ago, the eminent monk Wama from India passed away. His remains were split into two halves and scattered among the people. Legend in the martial world says that whoever obtains the complete remains of Rama will be able to master unparalleled martial arts and dominate the world. As a result, all the heroes and warriors join the fierce battle for the remains, plunging the martial world into chaos and bloodshed. Among them, the Blackstone organization was the most ruthless and vicious. When Blackstone heard that half of the remains had fallen into the hands of the current Prime Minister, Zhang Haiduan, they immediately sent 3 assassins to Zhang's residence. Without hesitation, Yeoh killed Zhang Haiduan. They took the body as Lei Bing needled Zhang Renfeng. Kai Shishi slashed a flaming blade at Renfeng. Outside, Blackstone leader King Xuanlan watched. Taking advantage of the chaos in the Zhang residence, Yeoh quietly left with Rama's body. When King Xuanlan learned of Yeoh's betrayal, he flew into a rage and issued a bounty. Whoever could bring him Yeoh's head would be rewarded with 50,000 taels of gold. People swarmed to claim the reward, scrambling for Yeoh's portrait. From that day on, Yeoh became a coveted target in everyone's eyes, yet he showed no fear at all. When faced with attacks from assassins, he skillfully wielded the Bihui sword. The blade was curved yet unbroken, unpredictable in its movements, and his riding sword technique was both swift and relentless. The wounds left behind were like being grazed by raindrops, and in just a few moves, she defeated all the assassins. Before dying, a female assassin warned Yeoh that once she set foot on this path, she should never expect to walk away unscathed. Yeoh had never thought of stopping. All she wanted was to kill everyone who stood against her. That night, on a bridge, she was stopped by Zhang Renfeng, who had narrowly escaped death. He declared that he would avenge his father. But before he could make a move, Yeoh pierced his heart with a single sword strike. He died hating. Monk Luju witnessed this and tried guiding the murderous Yeoh toward peace. After following her for 3 months, they developed feelings. Unable to indulge in worldly desires, Luju returned to his vows, but Yeoh persisted. They decided to settle their bond through a duel. During the fight, Luju saw 4 fatal flaws in her technique, but chose to spare her life. Instead, he waited for the right moment and threw himself onto Yeoh's sword.
If you can put down this sword, then I am also someone you have killed. The last person.
Moved by everything she had witnessed, Yeoh decided to change her appearance, withdraw from the martial world, and live as an ordinary person under a new name. 3 months later, Yeoh successfully altered her appearance and, following Luju's dying wish, delivered Lormo's remains to Yunhe Temple in Nanjing. She then took the alias Zhang Jing, burying all of her past in the grave. Afterwards, she came to the city and opened a fabric stall to make a living. She became just another ordinary woman among the townsfolk. The neighborly aunties, seeing that she was single, would often try to set her up on blind dates, but she always turned them down. She had already secretly fallen for Ma Fujian, Ha Sheng from the relay station. Ah Sheng, who also liked the gentle and kind Yeoh, would come over to help her pack up her stall every time it rained. The neighborly aunties saw all of this and tried to match the two of them together. Finally, Yeoh made up her mind to confess her feelings to Zhang Sheng. "Will you marry me?" The two soon got married and lived happily together every day as a loving couple. Meanwhile, King Xuanlan was unable to find any trace of Yeoh for several years, so he found another woman to take her place, named Zhang Cheng. She was a true madwoman. On her wedding night, she assassinated her husband's entire family. In court, she showed not the slightest hint of remorse, and as a result, she was sentenced to execution. That night, King Xuanlun ordered Kai Shishi to rescue her, and personally taught her martial arts. On this day, Yeoh and Zhang Sheng came to the bank to withdraw money, but unexpectedly encountered a robbery. In order to protect Yeoh, Zhang Sheng was struck down by the robbers using acupoint techniques, and Yeoh also pretended to collapse. The robbers' goal was not money. Rather, there had been recent rumors in the martial world that the lower half of Rama's remains was in the hands of the bank owner. The leader and his men searched everywhere, but found nothing. They immediately decided to kill everyone in the bank to silence them. To protect Yeoh, Zhang Sheng gritted his teeth and struggled to his feet despite his weakness. Just as the robbers' blades were about to fall, Yeoh suddenly sprang up and was forced to fight the robbers. During the struggle, she even took the time to reassure Zhang Sheng, telling him not to worry. "It's okay." Several of the robbers surrounded Yeoh, then without another word, charged at him. Worried about revealing his identity, Yeoh fought these burly men barehanded to prevent them from remembering his face. In just a few moves, he took them all down, then quickly escaped the bank with Zhang Sheng. After returning home, Siyu didn't know how to explain and was about to say something when Zhang Yisheng stopped him. Seeing this, Siyu no longer had any concerns, but his sudden actions had aroused King Zhuanli's suspicion. He repeatedly questioned the robbers from the bank and finally confirmed who had acted at the bank. It was Siyu, so he immediately ordered Zhan Qing, Lei Bin, and the masked performer to come to the capital. After receiving the signal from King Zhuanlun, King stabbed the old man, who was lying in bed full of desire, to death with a single thrust. At the same time, Lei Bin and the masked performer also hurried to the capital to report back. The next day, while Shiyu was setting up his stall, he saw Lei Bin on the rooftop and immediately sensed that something was wrong. He rushed home without stopping, and when he saw the 3 black stones placed on the table, he immediately realized that his true identity had been exposed. That night, he lit some knockout incense and covered his own mouth and nose, and before long, Sheng lost consciousness. Then, Shiyu leapt up to the beam, retrieved the Bihui sword, opened all the doors and windows, and sat in a chair, mending shoes, while calmly waiting for the uninvited guests to arrive. Sure enough, after a while, a group of people wielding long swords swaggered into his house.
A face can be changed, but that kind of presence can't be faked.
Zhan Qing was unwilling to exist merely as Siyu substitute, especially since Siyu was a woman of no beauty, so she drew her sword, wanting to challenge her. But Zhan Qing's martial arts foundation was too weak. She had barely swung her sword before Siyu slapped her hard across the face. Just as the two were at each other's throats, King Zhuanlun slowly approached. Outnumbered, Shiyu held back. King Zhuanlun checked on Zhang Yisheng, then threatened Shiyu, demanding Rama's remains in her return. Cornered, Shiyu proposed a deal. If she helped him obtain the complete remains, Blackstone must let her and her husband live. Seeing her resolve, King Zhuanlun agreed.
As long as you help me get the other half of the remains, I'll let you go.
King Zhuanlin told Siyu that there were rumors the twin swords of Kongtong sect knew the whereabouts of the remains. 3 days later, the two of them will enter the capital. At that time, he wants Siyu and the Blackstone assassins to go with him to retrieve the remains. During these 3 days of waiting, Zhang Qing didn't rest for a moment. He followed Zhang Yisheng every day, only to find that Zhang Yisheng had so little money he could only afford a whetstone. To provoke Shiyu, at night he stripped naked, lay on their bed, and kept twisting his graceful body. Seeing this, Zhang Yisheng smiled lightly, picked up Zhan Qing's clothes from the floor, walked outside, and shouted loudly.
Everyone, come and take a look.
The flirtatious Zhan Qing, wrapped in a bedsheet, fled in a flash. Meanwhile, the Ziqing twin swords had already arrived in the capital. These two used to have a master-disciple relationship. Later, they became lovers of Yuran. They claimed to have half of Rama's remains in their possession, and this time they had come to negotiate a deal with the owner of the money exchange. Boss Zhang of the money exchange had the lower half of Rama's remains, while what they brought was the upper half. But at that moment, the upper half of the remains was clearly with Shiyu. In other words, the remains brought by the Ziqing twin swords were fake. Soon, Boss Zhang discovered this lie, and unexpectedly, the two immediately drew their swords and killed Boss Zhang. After that, they began fighting with the staff in the money exchange. Just as they were about to escape, Qingjian suddenly killed his lover with a single strike, wanting to keep the remains for himself. But before he could get far, he was killed by the lurking Master of Colorful Tricks. After obtaining the remains, the Master of Colorful Tricks began to harbor thoughts of rebellion. He tried to persuade Lei Bin and Siyu to join forces with him to kill the Wheel King. Each person was trying to get what they wanted. At this moment, Shiyu suddenly sheathed her sword and placed Rama's remains on the ground, saying that she no longer had anything to do with Blackstone, and whoever wanted the remains could decide among themselves. She turned to leave, but was blocked by Zhang Qing, who descended from the sky, looking eager to fight. Meanwhile, the Master of Colorful Tricks was even more impatient, drawing his fireblade and immediately challenging the Wheel King to a duel. Flames danced gracefully along the blade as martial arts and sleight of hand intertwined, blurring the line between illusion and reality, dazzling everyone present. The Master of Colorful Tricks and the Wheel King were evenly matched. Meanwhile, Shiyu and Zhan Qing also began to fight. Zhan Qing's mediocre skills were clearly no match for Shiyu, but knowing that Shiyu wouldn't kill him, he relied on his own cunning and ruthlessness to hold his ground, resulting in a back-and-forth battle. At this moment, the hesitant Lei Bing decided to pledge allegiance to the Wheel King. He hurled silver needles, some aimed at the Master of Colorful Tricks, and others at Shiyu. Fortunately, Shiyu was agile enough to dodge all the attacks, while on the Master of Colorful Tricks side, Lei Bing's intervention disrupted the balance of the fight. The Master of Colorful Tricks was struck by an arrow and, in a panic, tried to escape using his immortal evasion technique. Unexpectedly, the Wheel King leapt forward and struck him down on the spot. After that, the Wheel King faced off against Siyu, exploiting 4 flaws in the Bihui sword technique to force him back. On his next attack, he knocked Siyu's sword out of his hand. Realizing he was no match, Siyu leapt onto the wall to escape, but the Wheel King caught up and landed a punch that made Siyu cough up blood. Fortunately, relying on sheer willpower, after successfully escaping and returning home, the first thing he did was tell Jang Asing to run. Jang Asing was not surprised to see his wife gravely injured. The Wheel King had no intention of letting Siyu go, and soon the group tracked them down. By then, Jang Asing had already opened the door to welcome them. Seeing these uninvited guests, he showed no sign of panic and calmly asked them, "You were the ones who hurt my wife." As he spoke, he pulled a rusty sword from an iron box buried underground and began sharpening it right before the fight. Lei Bing couldn't wait any longer and threw silver needles at him, but Jang Ashang deftly blocked them. A fierce battle broke out. Jang Ashang wielded his longsword with ease, pressing forward step by step, leaving Lei Bing no chance to use his silver needles. Not only that, but he even found time during the fight to sharpen his blade, and soon the sword's original sharpness began to show. Lei Bing kept feeling that this sword technique seemed familiar, until Zhang Ashang drew a second sword. Then he suddenly realized,
We've already killed you.
while Lei Bing was still in shock, Zhang Ashang stabbed him in the abdomen with a sword, ending his life. Amid the chaos, Zhang Qing threw a sword at Siyu, but unexpectedly he was still struck. The day after being wounded by an arrow, Zhang Qing went to see the Wheel King for treatment. The woman's delicate skin stirred the old man's heart, and Zhang Qing was also aroused. Just as he was about to reveal himself to the Wheel King, he made an unexpected discovery.
That's too close.
Now is the time.
In order to make Zhang Qing stay, the Wheel King began to reveal the secrets behind Rama's corpse. At this moment, he finally stopped hiding his true voice.
I entered the palace as a eunuch at the age of 12. Once the great task is accomplished, we will deal with the martial world first.
But Zhang Qing disbelieved. That people risked lives to snatch Rama's corpse for a eunuch's manhood seemed absurd. After saying this, Zhang Qing took his reward and started to leave, but the Wheel King stopped him. They buried him alive under the bridge. Meanwhile, Ashang set a meeting with the Wheel King at Yunhe Temple for the next day's fourth watch. He was actually John Renfeng, son of the late John Haiduan. Though shot through the heart by Siyu's arrow, his unique anatomy saved him. His heart was on the right side, so he narrowly escaped death. He disguised himself and returned to the capital, waiting for a chance to take his revenge. Now that the time had come, he was determined to end this feud. If you don't come, you'll never see Luomo's body again. Upon hearing this, the Wheel King was greatly shocked and hurried back to check. Zhang Ashing took Luomo's body. They met at Yunhe Temple that night, where Zhang Ashing unearthed Siyu's buried past. Then he placed the knife against his neck. It turned out that Zhang Ashang had known from the very beginning that his wife was actually Shiyu in disguise, which was why he deliberately got close to him, trying to use him to wipe out Blackstone in one fell swoop. Upon learning the truth, Shiyu was heartbroken and devastated.
Have you ever truly cared about me?
Absolutely impossible.
Siyu faced Zhang Ashang's blade without the slightest resistance, while Zhang Ashang was torn with anguish and couldn't bring himself to strike. After a long moment, he decided to let Siyu go. Suddenly, Siyu raised her sword and, disregarding everything, lunged at him. Zhang Ashang too no longer held back, as if both of them wanted to kill each other. Zhang Ashang leapt into the air, and this scene reminded Siyu of her former master. So, with practiced skill, she struck Zhang Ashang's acupoint, knocking him down, and then fed him guishi san, a drug that could make someone appear dead. She then stabbed his chest with a short dagger. Everything was under Shiyu's control. She knew Zhang Ashang would not die. When the Wheel King arrived for the meeting, what he saw was the already dead Zhang Ashang, and Shiyu, sword in hand, ready to fight. But history has a way of repeating itself. Once again, Shiyu was forced to retreat step by step because of the 4 flaws in the Be-Sweet sword technique. At this life and death moment, he thought of Lu Ju. It turned out that back when Lu Ju sparred with him, she had already taught him the 4 missing moves. Suddenly, everything became clear to him, and he concealed himself in the 9th stance. Yes! The Wheel King never imagined, even in his wildest dreams, that he would be defeated by his own disciple. Siyu avenged Ashang. Now Blackstone had been completely wiped out, and the Wheel King himself collapsed to the ground from excessive blood loss. The next day, Ashang awoke from his state of suspended animation, thinking Siyu was already dead. Just as he was overwhelmed with grief, he discovered that Siyu was still breathing. Step by step, he carried Siyu in his arms, heading home.
The days ahead. We're still long to come.